Tuesday. Is today Tuesday? Yeah.
Yeah.
What a week already. It's Tuesday. So happy Tuesday to all of you. Thanks so much for joining us. This is no stranger to my Facebook feed, that's for sure. This is Dr. Shrey Matusik, who practices in Minnesota, just outside of Minneapolis. And I've had the pleasure of doing private coaching with Shrey for several years, and she's been in the boot camp since it started and is returning for a second time for our peds boot camp this year. It is at Sherman College, February 24th through the 26th. And this year it's called the Peds Plus Boot Camp because we're doing peds, pregnancy, and a whole lot more. So Dr. Shrey, welcome and thanks for joining me.
Thank you for having me. I'm always excited, and I'm super, super excited to be back and do an in-person event and see my boot camp tribe and everybody else. It's
right.
Way too long.
It's definitely, and what have you missed the most about connecting in person?
I just feel like the in-person connection is so different. These days, like, we're so stuck in our computers, like all of your continuing ed and all these things are online, but I feel like you just don't pay as much attention and it's not as personal. And always, I mean, my whole entire career, when you're at the seminars, it's the little side conversations and sitting over dinner or whatever. You pick up these like nuggets of wisdom from people that are so amazing. I mean, they're just like total game changers.
I agree with you. And whether, no matter what, we're all in the relationship business. Mm-hmm. Right? Whether in our practice or what we're learning. And I want to invite this lens for all of you to consider coming to the Peds Boot Camp, not even for what you're going to learn, but for who you'll be. For who you'll be after being doused in love, after who you'll be after being drenched in acceptance and appreciation and support and guidance and friendship, about who you'll return as mother or father in just getting a little bit of breathing room and perspective. What if it's not just like, oh, so I can learn more stuff? What if the experience is just for you? I mean, I have yet to really meet too many, especially women, who would say, oh, you know what? I'm definitely full on self-care. Right? I mean, most of us, that's at the very bottom of the list. So I just want to invite you to look at joining us at the Peds Boot Camp. It's $397 for a weekend of people who are of your like mind, of individuals who can learn from you and who can learn with you. And all of these wonderful things, like it's a really inexpensive investment for you. So Sheree, if we're looking at the learning piece though, what are you seeing in practice? Like you've delivered 150,000 plus adjustments and have seen everything from A to Z. What are you seeing now that's so different than even 2 years ago?
Right. So, I mean, it's really, it's amazing to me how much babies have changed over the course of my 22 years. I mean, my first year and internships in practice, like it was all, oh, we've got to adjust babies. And like the craziest thing you saw was maybe a dairy intolerance, like, or, like that was complicating with some ear infections or something. Now we are seeing like these, even in the last like 6 months, these really crazy presentations with babies that are just lethargic, like not even waking up to eat, parents not stimulating. So I would say like a year and a half ago, you saw all of that tension in the babies, the ones that are like this, and everybody's like, oh, my child's so advanced, they can stand right away and they hold their head and you know what I mean? And it's not free flowing movement, right? It was just dural tension that was created by subluxation patterns that were probably just look at all this stress, right? Like Monica Berger is talking at the Peds Boot Camp, and she talks all the time about how the maternal stress in the third trimester is the stress state that the baby's born in, right? So now my theory, and I have a lactation consultant in my office that we see a lot of these cases in tandem. And we just think that these babies' nervous systems are so blown out that they can't even function, right? So you take that tension level here, and then on top of it now, they're just like decompensating and they're not even able to do the basic tasks of nursing, eating from a bottle. It's crazy, like babies losing weight, all sorts of things. We've sent, they're so lethargic that we actually sent a bunch of them into cardiology to make sure that there wasn't something significant going on with their cardiovascular system, because they're just little puddles that just want to sleep the whole time.
You know, and how interesting. I posted this, I think it was this week. I don't know. I write a lot of stuff about how, as society, if we're not happy and joyful and blah, 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 everything's always perfect, yay, that we diagnose that person as depressed. Now, no one is hearing me say that depression isn't a real thing. Like, you can go back and watch this again. I didn't say that. However, I also think that this idea that as human, we're always supposed to be on a high is just unreal, not only unrealistic, but I don't know that it's not necessarily natural or healthy. And if we look at like what's to gain from businesses, or what's to gain in culture of saying that that's the wrong state. Well, there are a lot of pharmaceutical drugs that'll make you happy again, right? Like, there's a lot of alcohol that is sold in order to have that, like, you know, you pick up the chick or you pick up the hot guy or whatever because you're drinking. There's lots of counseling, lots of therapy, even lots of coaching available when you're not always happy. Well, what if instead part of it is the innate intelligence, like just shutting down the system? Like, if a blow dryer is running too long, it gets really hot and it shuts down. Or like I was giving the example this morning when we went on our hunt in Farewell in September, my machine, my quad went into limp mode and would barely just like put because I had pushed it too hard through a bunch of mud holes. And so it quieted down to protect the system. So these babies, what if their nerve system through innate intelligence is quieting down to protect it? And if we didn't know, right? Like somebody like you with all of this experience of like, what is health? What does health look like actually for a baby? Then we would be like, oh, they're such a calm baby. But with your wisdom, it's like, whoa, 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 like time out. Something is happening on the inside. So what are the signs that someone can be looking for, Sheree, that instead of mom and dad just calling this such a good baby, like really from a clinical perspective, like let's dig in deeper.
Well, I think that parents do innately know my baby's not eating enough. I mean, when a baby sleeps for 4 hours and you cannot wake them up to get them to eat, there's a problem, right? These babies are losing weight. I mean, I guess to me, it's very obvious. I don't know. But yes, I do think some parents are like, oh, our baby's so relaxed. And, and they do say some of those things. I'm like, but that's not a good idea. If you are not, babies have 3 jobs. They eat, sleep, and poop, right? Those are the 3 things that babies have to do. And it is not okay, in my opinion, when a baby poops once every 10 days. Oh, that's fine. They're breastfed. No. That's not the way life works. Babies are meant to sleep, but they're also, they're primary. Look at the rooting reflex and all of those things that are just born into these babies. The other thing that we're noticing with them too is pretty significant almost like a C shape, not even just torticollis, because it's not just the neck. We have that whole arc, the baby is just curved over. And I've tried to demonstrate. I still have my baby Bootcamp, by the way. And I try to demonstrate, and I decapitate this poor little doll all the time because you can't, this baby doesn't bend, but you just see, it's like the baby is just like this. There's just no normal pattern. And other signs are that the baby doesn't like to sit in the car seat, right? So if you're so tight, tense, that you don't have anything relaxing, right? Like you're taking tension off the system so that the head is usually arched back into extension. These babies can't sit. They can't sit in a car seat. They can't go in a stroller. They can't do anything because their body is so uncomfortable. It's trying to take that tension off. And so we'll see that too. And especially if you've had more than one child or been around other babies, you're like, this cannot be normal. And so definitely those things. And then also, if they're in this state when they actually do feed, they're not going to have a nice balanced latch. And so moms are going to be like sore. We've had moms come in with like the skin entirely off their nipples. Like it's pretty horrible and significant. And I have never seen this in the 20 plus years before. Like it's a whole nother level. And so then I am instinctively going, oh my goodness, what is happening? And you're going through that. And we're seeing a ton of buccal ties. So it's right up here, like passed into the cheek, but primarily on the left side, not bilateral. I mean, they'll have a little bit on the right, but we're seeing so many buccal ties on the left, and it's causing the jaw to kind of shift off. Everything is held in tension here. So there's this really crazy facial asymmetry where the chin is kind of jutted back, right? And recessed in and tucked in. And you can't eat, you can't swallow, you can't do anything when it's like this. And, or the baby will latch a couple of times and then just fatigue out and kind of quit. And so we just have so much going on in the cervical muscles, the jaw muscles, in through that whole complex, that I think it's really imperative to check the cranium as well as the spine. I mean, I believe in the subluxation. I adjust the spine pretty much every single visit. I don't know that I don't, unless a patient is referred by another chiropractor for just cranial work. We'll do that without adjustments, but I don't like not doing them in tandem. It takes longer. It makes it more difficult. It takes way more time.
I love that. So at Peds Bootcamp, Sheree is going to be going through the exam of what is a really comprehensive pediatric exam. If we don't even know how to do it, how are we going to find these subluxation patterns? And then for those of you who've been able to, Sheree spoke at our Peds Bootcamp in 2020, and then
we did
2019. And then last summer we did an online, and every single person, if you haven't heard Sheree teach yet, and just like watch how magical she is, in just her understanding of pediatrics, it's really so beautiful, and just from her own learning and practical state. And so there's going to be lots of hands-on too. So you're not going to have to figure it out in your office on Monday. What did she say? Because we're going to have an opportunity for you to be able to have your hands on your baby and actually see what is happening and ask questions. Because the cranials nowadays are not the same as they were a few years ago. Like, obviously subluxation changes life expression. And we're seeing that mamas and daddies are more stressed out than they've ever been. So Sheree, as we wrap this up, let's say somebody who's watching is like, I've already been to a bunch of pediatric seminars. What makes ours so different, and what will they be missing if they don't come?
Right. Well, with the hands-on portion, I think the biggest sticking point when you're trying to start learning how to do craniosacral therapy, chiropractic cranials, the whole gamut of it is, I don't really know if I'm feeling this correctly, right? Like it's a touch. You remember that first day of chiropractic school and you're like, I have to count how many vertebrae? Like I can't feel this. And I specifically remember that first lab day just being panicked.
Yeah.
And it's a touch that you develop, right? And so if you get somebody who has knowledge and you can work with somebody and feel that, because we can feel it on each other, we can feel an adult cranial rhythm. It's not a different rhythm than in a baby. In a little baby, it's actually a little bit easier because it's so compact and concise. And so you're going to get to figure out, can I feel this and how does it feel? And that is like the biggest piece of the puzzle, right? And then from there, my whole deal when I'm teaching classes, I want to give you something that you can take back tomorrow. Monday morning, your first patient, you can do this. And I think that sometimes you'll go to a seminar and take all these notes and you learn all this great knowledge. But if you're not incorporating it into your practice, it's just not practical, right? And so I've done training through cranial training through Upledger. I've done, the chiropractic training as well with Cranials. And specifically Upledger, it's an hour-long protocol. I'm not spending an hour with my patients, nor do I think that you have to incorporate this. We have 5-minute time slots. We shifted it. We're in a little weird mix with COVID. Like we shifted our stuff to 10 minutes for a while and we're sort of kind of tailoring it back in. But 3 to 5 minutes with a patient, I can do some cranial release in there. I can assess based on my knowledge. I don't have to go through the whole protocol. Sometimes that's indicated, but most of the time it's not. So it's hands-on practical knowledge that you can take home and start incorporating into your practice.
Nice. I love that. And come and join us. Like,
Yeah.
be there, even if it's not to like, it's like, I get a question all the time. Like, I don't serve pediatrics. Like, should I still come? Yes. Yes. Like
I use this on Graham. Like I was doing some cranial work. We have a patient who lost their sense of taste and smell from COVID. And that's why they came in. And they're like, what can you do? And so we balanced out the cranium, we adjusted the spine. She comes back and she goes, I don't know what kind of magic you do, but I've had headaches for 30 plus years. I didn't even come to you for that. How did this happen? And she didn't even share that with me. Like you go through the whole intake and you're asking, what's going on. Didn't even share it. So we use cranial techniques on grandmas. I use it on hot low backs. We don't, we see a lot of the crazy pediatric stuff, but I have a family practice. I see multiple generations and sometimes the babies get referred in and sometimes it's a pregnant mom and we end up seeing grandma, grandpa down, all the kids, everybody. And so you don't have to just serve pediatrics and pregnancy. But the other thing that I'm noticing as a trend too on Facebook is a lot of chiropractors are getting burnt out. And I feel you. Like this sucks. I don't like practicing during COVID. Where I live, I am wearing a mask. I don't get to see people smiling. Like this is not my happy place, right? This is not what I enjoy, but I know that I'm making an impact and I know that the ties, it's going to change. I don't know to what degree and I don't know how fast. But when you are feeling burnt out, you just need to get around like-minded people. Plain and simple. Yeah. It helps. Just being in the boot camp is great, but being in person and just getting away from the practice and getting away from the grind and getting re-energized about things that make you excited and happy. And it'll make all the difference.
Yeah. And what a great way to start what could be another like quote unquote rough year. Like we don't know what's in store for 2022. No one could have imagined that we'd be where we are for sure. And I think just being around others to go, oh my gosh, it's not just me. Like I'm not the only one who's taking this stress at home and like all of these crazy things are blowing up at home or like all of this stuff. And not that misery loves company, but all of us being together to support one another. And no, if you know anything about me, I'm not sit around and let's like have a pity party. That's not what we're talking about. Like, look at these two women right here. We are not sit around, have a pity party kind of individuals. We are sit around. Let's have conversation and let's seek truth. Let's see what is our thinking. Let's see what is our emotion. Let's see what is universal truth and what do we most need to show up as our best. Like for me, my private coaching calls are my self-care. Like that's one of the biggest things I do for myself is make sure all of this is working well and is firing strong, so I can be my best in every relationship I show up to. So for those of you who haven't grabbed your ticket yet, remember that ticket prices do go up January 1st. So make sure you grab your spot. It's $397 for doctors, $75 for your CE portion. We've applied for most states. And it's 13 and a half CE. So if you need 12 a year, bam, got them done in February. We also have 2 boot camp houses again, which I love the boot camp house and having a slumber party with all my chiro sisters. There's a VIP option. It's really just going to be every year we go just we go higher and take it bigger. And this year will be our best one yet. So grab your seat. If you have a little bit of extra cash and like to do something nice, grab a seat for a student. It's $97 for students. If you don't know a student to give that to, let me know. There are some students that have reached out to us and asked, hey, is anyone donating this year? We'd like to be able to come. And just come.
What a fun thing to do for Christmas, right?
Yeah.
Like the more you give, the more you get back. And how much, you're always looking for things to do over the holidays and feeling generous. And that would be a fantastic thing. I didn't even know that. So I learned something today.
Yeah, you can buy a ticket for a student and who knows, maybe it'll end up being a student who preceptors in your office. Maybe it'll end up being a student who preceptors and then, ends up being an associate or independent contractor, or maybe you're the one that they credit their wild success for in a couple of years. Like, we just don't know. But I know when we take action, life starts to shift and move. So to all of you, God bless you. Merry Christmas. Sheree, thank you so much for joining me today and for just all of the ways in which our lives are entangled. I really love and appreciate you.
I love you too. Have a fantastic day. And everybody sign up. I want to meet more people.
Yes. Go
in person.
Yes, let's meet in person. Let's have a great time and really kick off 2022 in a brand new way. So for all of you, have a great rest of your day and we'll see you soon.